All right, starting as we always do with who we are. This is me, Mostrino. This is my voice.
It's your boy, Kothani Vactano here, the internet's busiest music nerd.
And the returning superstar,
Yay.
Katz.
The greatest comeback of all time.
Amazing.
So now, starting out as always with the releases of the past week, starting with Mondays. This one was kind of a one that a lot of us were very excited for, which is the new Mizer Mazar track with Young Medicine called Vagrant, which, at least my thoughts on it, I wasn't as crazy over it as many other people. I really like the vocals and kind of like the intro and midsection, but the drops kind of felt like a weaker Berserker to me.
Yeah, I think if you put Young Medicine's vocals and replace Essinger's on Berserker, then you have a 10 out of 10 song right there, in my opinion. Because I think Young Medicine like blows this out of the water. I think it's probably one of the best vocal performances on the label this year. In my opinion.
True.
But I literally don't know what happened because after Berserker, Mazar's just mixing quality and mastering took a nosedive.
True.
And this is another example of it. It's not as bad because the whole point of this track is that it's really loud. So it's not as bad, but especially in the second drop, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, the second drop
That's
is pretty weak.
That's probably why it's a bit like better than most of his other stuff this year. Because I don't know, after Berserker, I think Masare just kind of like dropped in quality very heavily. Like his Potions remix is a perfect example of that. Like considering how much of a fan I was of Where Do We Go and Nothing More, I was heavily disappointed by how poorly mixed and like bad the Potions remix was.
Everybody forgot about Battle Cry.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
we
true.
We all forgot about Battle Cry, which is... Yeah, it's kind of just boring, honestly.
Yeah.
It's okay. I liked it for a bit. Now I just don't care about it at all. It's definitely there. I just don't care.
It's gotten the sentence of an okay track on a terrible compilation.
True. What comp was it on again?
UV8.
Oh yeah, that one was...
The
that
one
was
with
a bit of a yikes.
The one with 3 epic songs. Who else is on it?
Reaper kind of carried.
Yeah, Reaper, and one other like Reaper and like Justin O and Marzar just hard carried. We had the pegboard nerds. We had Bro Step Strikes Back. Hell yeah.
And Bad Boy on that one.
Yes.
Oh, true. Power by Eptic.
So,
it's the ways of the underground.
And Watch Your Back by Slushy.
Oh, that EP.
Watch Your Back and Test Me were both on there, I think.
When you in this... I remember, this is like just a story about Test Me, but it got leaked, like, I want to say 2016. But the person who had originally leaked it made their own Monster Cat cover and put it on. And I think that's when the Slushy had originally said, yeah, this is never coming out, so whatever. But then 3 years later,
it ended up coming out.
And it sounds... And other than like slight mixing changes, it sounds almost exactly the same.
Yeah, the sad thing about Test Me is that bit with like the bells and stuff that's like right before the build up sounds really, really nice. And then you get to the build up and the drop, and it just does a complete 180.
Just in like the last 5 releases, it just pulled it got so much better.
True.
Like it's 4 out of the 5 releases before Isolation were garbage, and then Isolation shouldn't All Night Bittersweet and Who I Am.
Yeah, that's true.
Bittersweet was, once we got into 2020, things started to look up a little bit for Uncaged, because, UV9 was definitely miles ahead of UV8, albeit not necessarily too good, but it's getting out of the rut a little bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
Much better. And UV9 I had like 10 tracks I enjoyed, 15 maybe. And what, 3 in UV8.
4.
Yeah, basically. So now, moving to Tuesday's release, we got the Doomu track, Breathe Again, which I don't know about you guys, but I was actually quite disappointed with this one. Usually, Doomu tends to be pretty solid on the label, but this one just kind of felt kind of empty and half finished.
Yeah, I think originally I really did not like the song. I thought it was really boring, but then it started to grow on me after a little bit, and I started to like sort of accept how minimal it is, and then I started to enjoy it. But the one thing that I don't like about this is that, in my opinion at least, Dumu's vocals sound way more better, like just natural and unprocessed, like in like All for Nothing, as opposed to this where it's heavily vocoded.
How about in stuff like Blinded? What did you think of them there?
That one's also like alright. It's sort of like an in between of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Breathe Again was really underwhelming for me at first, but then it started growing and growing and growing, and I like it a whole lot now. Because, like Kovak said, is you start to appreciate how minimalistic it is, and it kind of just starts growing and growing on you. And me personally, I'm a big fan of those vocal to Doomu vocals, so
Yeah.
like in Blinded, they really click with me, and in this case, it's not better, but they're good. And the track grew from like a 3 to a 7 or something. I don't come back
Dang.
to it a lot, but it's still a pretty nice laid back track.
Mm-hmm. So moving to Thursday's release, which is like the 20-second pre-upload from Muzz's album, is Starglide, which I really enjoyed the vocals on here, and I thought the intro was very promising, but similar to Somewhere Else, I kind of felt underwhelmed, or like I kind of felt like the drop was a bit underwhelming. It really just didn't have the same energy as the intro for me.
Yeah. I enjoy this for pretty much like the same reasons why I like Somewhere Else, is that I think atmospheric Muzz is like miles ahead of just like banger, like Nemesis-esque stuff. Because when he takes the time to like set up these soundscapes, they sound really amazing, but usually he just doesn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Starglide, I really enjoyed it from my first listen. Based on the Uncaged previews, I didn't really like it, and I didn't think it was gonna be all that good. But for some reason, when I heard the entire thing, like the entire progression and the vocals and all, I feel like they're really solid and up to par with what was Muzz's last release, being Somewhere Else, which would be like his best in my opinion. So yeah, I don't know. Like these Muzz releases have really been growing on me a whole lot recently, and I'm really hyped for the album.
Yeah. Also, I really like Cammy Robinson's performance on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's
that's quite
fantastic.
good.
Yeah.
And then moving to the most recent release on Friday, quite an interesting one, Lost My Mind by Inverness and William Bolton, which was certainly, I'll at least say this for myself, it was certainly far from what I was expecting. And it just sounded like a song I'd hear on the radio, really. If you told me it was Monster Cat, I really wouldn't believe you, because just a whole lot of the elements just seem, I guess very mainstream per se. It's not necessarily a bad song, but I don't know, I was certainly expecting something else.
Yeah, if you told me that Marshmello made this, I probably would not bat an eye, to be quite honest. Like, it's like, I think the last time we had a release like this on Monster Cat, in my opinion, was like Nightcap by Terry Zong, where it's just so like inoffensive and basic that I just forget everything about it once I'm done listening to it.
The exact opposite thing happened to me for some reason. Like after listening to it, at the moment when I listened to it, I was already a bit irritated because I had a lot of stuff to do. So that probably affected a bit my impression of the song. But then I started listening to it because I had the melody and stuck in my head, like for the rest of the day, and I came back to it, and I came back to it, and I just keep coming back to it, even though I'm not crazy about the track. Like, it's nothing too fascinating in my opinion, but I keep coming back to the track over and over and over again. So, and when I was playing League, I was using the Monster Cat playlist, listening to music, and it came on shuffle, and I hadn't heard it so much when that happened, but that made it even worse. I played it like 5 times in a row. So it's like really catchy. I don't know. Like, it's not the most original thing, and it's pretty mainstream, but the chorus is so catchy.
So that's really just it for the past weeks. We kind of sped through that, but from now we're actually going to be moving towards including the past week's releases of some other labels, which will vary depending on which week we do. So that's going to be kind of a new thing that you're going to see over here. And the first one that we're going to run through is Bitbird's releases from the past week. First one being About Us by, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, I think it's Kamson, I'm not certain.
Yeah, that sounds right.
As far as my thoughts on it, I mean, I thought it was kind of neat. The vocals felt a little bit weird in some places. Like, there were kind of some like notes that were kind of sketch, but overall I thought it was a pretty neat track.
Yeah, it's sort of like a nice throwback indie dance track. Like, it reminded me a lot of like 2014, 2015 Lemaitre or Lemaitre in a lot of, especially in like sort of, yeah, just sort of like the energy that it carries. And yeah, I don't know, it wasn't as good as his last track on the label, but it's still a good listen.
Yeah, it's a vibe, definitely. It's nice. It's a fun listen. Nothing really bad I can say about it, but it's not too standoutish.
Yeah. And then the other release from Bitbird from the past week was Duskus's Rising EP, which it had some neat tracks on it. I kind of quite enjoyed a lot of the melodies and a lot of the sounds used there. I don't think it was certainly something incredibly special, but I did enjoy the tracks in there, and I might come back to them from time to time because there's some neat ideas there.
I like how, or at least Duskus, while he's kind of just stuck to like similar house themed stuff, a lot of the sounds that he uses in his music has changed quite a bit, and is slowly turning, I guess, more into like his old school trap stuff with house, especially in like the title track, which is, I think I'd mentioned this in a few podcasts ago, but it reminds me a lot of his Only Be Me by Drulu remix, which, except where it kind of does like this atonal melody type thing, except this one does it much better in my opinion. And then subtax on this, which is neat.
Yeah,
I really enjoy this EP, to be honest. This style really clicks with me. I really like this style of music, and in particular, I think Wild was like my favorite track on this EP. Because I don't know, it's just super nice. A great listen. Wild and the Subtech collab, I'd say, are my favorite ones. Rising is cool. I like it a lot, but it's not. I wouldn't come back to it so much, though. I've already heard Wild a bunch, and it's really, really good. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I think the one last thing I wanted to say about this one is that the closing track, No I'm Not, Yes I Am, the whatever the vocalist on it, it sounds shockingly like a Charlie XCX. So if by some chance Duskus managed to get Charlie as uncredited vocals, that's huge in terms of like popularity. But somehow I think it's, yeah. I just think though that it might just be someone who sounds similar, but you never know.
Yeah, like how in Dodge and Fusky's like 2 albums, they got Morgan Freeman and Samuel L. Jackson for the intro tracks.
That was funny.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting to say the least. So now, another kind of EP label that we decided to include for this past week is our favorite Inspected, which in the past week released Scope's Low Focus EP. And I guess the one outlier for this is Hoops, which I really didn't enjoy too much. But aside from that, the production on this is massive, fantastic sound design. I love the like drums and like little perks that Scope throws around here, and it's overall it's really well made.
Yeah. I think something interesting for me about this EP is that because it's just released, it's the track list is just how like the order in which the singles released, because this was released one track per week.
Mm-hmm.
But like in my opinion, the EP gets better and better as like each track, I guess, starts and ends. Like I don't really like Jaded is really forgettable. I don't really care about Circuit. I think Low Focus is really cool. Hoops is a banger, and Wander might be one of my favorite tracks of the year. I think it's just like so insane in what it does, especially in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
Wander is definitely the standout track in this EP. I'd say the entire EP is like it's mind-boggling as it's so concise. Everything is so clean. Like every track has so many sounds going on, but they all flow so cleanly into each other, and the kicks, the basses used are so like creative. They're all used creatively throughout every single track. And one issue I have is that most tracks aren't really forgettable because they don't really have like are really forgettable, not aren't really forgettable. But they don't really have like a leading melody or some point of the track that you can hold on to.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, they're good listens and they're really complex pieces of music.
Yeah. And
I think also this is like out of all of the Scope that I've listened to, this is really like the first project that I've heard that it's like where Scope is really starting to find his voice, I assume, or I guess in like the sort of scene that he's in, because previous stuff that I've heard of him I've always thought of as just being like very much run of the mill of what he does, of like the kind of drum and bass that he does, but this was like a massive step into new territory for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I really liked the variety on here because some of these were a lot heavier and a lot more focused on sound design, but some of these like Jaded, for instance, were a lot more chill and even reminded me a little bit of Echo in some parts, which I thought was neat to see, like all the variation in this EP.
It's always nice when a track reminds you of Echo. You know a track is good when a track reminds you of Echo.
So moving forward, also this past week, Ellis posted his favorite picks from his Don't Say You're Sorry remix contest, which unfortunately was not released on the label as far as I'm aware, because I don't know if this is the majority opinion, but I actually thought it was quite a solid pack. But I think for this, we can go through these one by one.
Yeah.
So the first one is the Jack Shore remix, and for those of you guys unaware, this was hosted on Label Radar, and they have this option where you can listen to previews of the tracks and see if you like thumbs up, thumbs down, if you like it or not. And then Jack Shore remix was one of the first ones on there, and I heard it. I was like, okay, this is really sick, because it was quite similar to the original, but it was kind of like a house flip of it, and I thought it was kind of a groove. So it was really neat to see that it ended up being one of the ones that ended up being on the pack.
I think my biggest problem with this one and the second one, the Sick Rate one, is that because I've never had any prior experience of listening to them beforehand, both of these, in my opinion, sound almost the exact same, other than the Sick Rate remix has a melody riff, or like a melodic line that sounds like Ghost Voices by Virtual Self. But yeah, I don't know. They just kind of blend in together for me.
Yeah, same. Like, there's some standout remixes we'll get to in a bit, but these two kind of like are they're okay. I like them, but they're very forgettable in my opinion. Even though they're great remixes, but they honestly don't really hold up to the original that much.
Well, another thing that I quite enjoy from the Jack Shore remix is, I don't know if you guys remember, but in the second half of the drop, it has kind of like a guitar going on. I thought that was pretty neat to hear. And I
Yeah.
guess I'll comment on the second one, the Sick Rate remix as well. This one, at least in my eyes, was probably the weakest of the group, but because it kind of sounded like if someone was trying to recreate "Don't Say You're Sorry" in the style of Moonfunk. I kind of got that kind of
Yeah.
like idea from it, which
Yeah,
it's. I mean, it's nice. It's not bad, but it kind of doesn't really have that much of an identity.
it reminded me of uh, "Tell Me," the "Tell Me" remix
Yeah.
by Ellis. Yeah, because it's that mix of like Ellis funk
Hmm.
and the moon funk style that he uses, and it felt kind of weird
Yeah.
because it
Especially
was
with
like trying too hard to be Ellis at some points, like
yeah.
kind of too similar to the original.
Hmm. So moving to the third one, this is the Two Worlds Apart remix, which is the only artist on here that I actually recognize, so it was neat to see them. And I remember when I heard the preview that I heard the drop, and the whole thing they did with the don'ts really reminded me of the first drop of Margarita. So that was actually quite
Yeah.
a cool thing to hear. And yeah, I wouldn't have thought of doing anything like that for a remix. So I thought it was, yeah, really neat.
Yeah. I think yeah, it's like there's really nice vocal chops in the or in the drops, and yeah, I don't really have a lot to say about this because it really just kind of builds up, drops, and then just kind of abruptly ends without much more.
Yeah, it's pretty short.
It's a very like there's good ideas, but they really could have been developed more to make a
Yeah,
better song.
like the track itself is could have been really good. I like where it was going, since I really like Margarita, and it kind of reminded me of that too. But I
Hmm.
feel like the before the track really gets started, it kind of ends. If you get what I mean, like
Yeah.
before it could accomplish anything massive, uh, it kind of just abruptly ends.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because that's like one of the really good things about Margarita is that it kind of evolves and then it has that final like climax near the end. But for this, I believe both of the drops are the same. And one thing that I guess is um like my one critique of the drops is that it goes into the don't section and then they cut the highs and it kind of hurts the energy of the drops a bit. I think they could have, maybe pushed the energy a bit more, and if they had different drops, it could have definitely been something even cooler. But for what it is now, I still think it's a quite nice remix.
Yeah,
Definitely, but I wouldn't come back to it. I think because it's there. I'd
Mm.
say,
yeah, it exists.
yeah.
Moving forward to the fourth one on the list, the Chris de Lendas remix. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but it's the future bass remix. I know Kovac described it as no calorie Jaren, and I have the cursed opinion that I actually do enjoy it, which might be a bit illegal, but uh, I don't think it's anything amazing. But for what it is, I think the chops work nicely, and yeah, it's a pretty nice remix.
Yeah, I made
Mom,
the
can we have
joke.
Jaren?
Yeah, Jaren at home. Mm, but yeah, I think it's very much like a formulaic Jaren song where you have these like grand immersive synths with this like blown out drums and whatnot. But it apart from that, like it has the identity of something like Jaren's, but it doesn't really have any sort of punch to it. Like it's missing a lot of like the energy that it really needs for it to be like a memorable track.
Hmm.
It just kind of exists and has a loud snare.
Yeah, and more than that, um, Jaren's style doesn't really work with "Don't Say You're Sorry," in my
Yeah.
opinion. Kind of like clashes. It's weird.
Like if you're going to go all the way instead of using the original song and trying to go all the way off of that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of wacky when I didn't even realize this until we listened right beforehand. But I noticed that on top of using his own vocal chops, I think he used the original vocal chops in one of the drops too, which I thought was kind of a wacky choice because if you already have the vocal chops that you made, it kind of clashes a little bit with the originals.
Yeah.
But then finally, the last remix on the pack is the Ario, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that last remix, which I think is probably the most unique on the pack. And it does kind of a lot of cool things in there. I mean, it's not my personal favorite, but I think it's really neat. Some of this, like, yeah, kind of like the sample manipulation, like the weird beats that are going on in the drop there.
One of the things that I love about it so much is that it just uses the original vocal chops, but like mixes them in such a creative way, and B is that it it uses a lot of like synth work and whatnot that you would expect to hear on the original track, but are original for this remix.
Yeah.
So it's
So it
very
feels in
seamless.
place.
Yes, it's very in place and seamless while sounding unique, I suppose.
Yeah, it's so like unique, creative, and seamless at the same time. It's so immersive. Like, it's by far my favorite remix, and it's on par with the original, in my opinion. Might be even better.
Nice. So now moving on to just a few other tracks that we wanted to cover today specifically. The first of them being the new Jaycee track, which is called Core. And the production was, I mean, I haven't heard a whole ton of Jaycee, but I was kind of expecting that production. I was expecting, some more wacky, go stupid future bass. But what's there is actually really nice, and I quite enjoyed the vocals there as well.
Yeah.
I didn't expect Chorus to be this way, honestly. After Damn, I didn't expect Core to be such like a laid back, maybe romantic type track, but I know Jaycee can do that style fantastically with Curse, Bronte maybe in the picture. Lots of great tracks that are more laid back and try to focus more on the sound design and not sound design, but like world building aspects and emotional bits. But it also keeps that Jaycee flair that makes all his music so good. And yeah, Core is in general a really great track in my opinion. Not better than Django though. That one's gonna be tough to make a track better than that.
Yeah, I really like this year especially this year on tracks like New Year, Curse, and this, that Jaycee is experimenting a lot more with his own vocals and sort of reaching out into new territory with that. And while I think on this track his vocals aren't amazing, but they've definitely improved, and I could see them being, or I could see like this just being the beginning, I suppose.
Some chord progressions on the track are phenomenal. Like in my opinion, some just really feel satisfying to listen to, and that's a huge accomplishment.
Then the next one that we had on this list is Porter Robinson's "Get Your Wish," but the DJ not Porter Robinson remix, our favorite DJ, which I mean, honestly, it's quite a tune. It's quite a very neat remix. That first bit, the nice drums make it really punchy, really fun, and then the second part it just goes all wild, and it really caught me off guard there, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think it's just it's very much just "Get Your Wish," but with more of just a punch to it in general. And yeah, I think what's really funny, I don't know if we also want to talk about this because we have time, but the second remix, the Anamanaguchi remix, both of them very coincidentally do right before the second drop. They they
do the same.
They chop up the vocals a lot, and in both ones, I think it works quite well.
Yeah, I wasn't really big on the Anamanaguchi one. I don't know, probably not my style, like when it pitches up and all that. But the DJ Not Porter Robinson remix kind of caught me off guard because it was so like jumpier. It was fun, and it was like it was a fun remix in general. I still prefer the original because it's Get Your Wish, but both are definitely solid remix. It's a solid remix package, and while the Anamanaguchi remix is not my style, it's, I guess, for what it is, it's definitely solid.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I think my one complaint with the DJ Not Porter Robinson remix is that Porter should have called it the DJ Potaro remix, and I would have laughed. Like that, it was the perfect opportunity, but no.
I can't wait for a DJ Potaro and DJ Not Porter Robinson collab. That's gonna definitely save 2020.
Epic.
And just
Just
no title.
it's
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 redacted.
it's Porter Robinson, Virtual Self, DJ Potaro, and DJ Not Porter Robinson, the four-way mega collab that everybody wanted.
It's gonna be epic.
Hell yeah.
Finally.
And then the last one on this list here, we have The Avalanches, Wherever You Go, featuring Clipso, Jamie XX, and Nina, I'm not sure, Cherry. Which
Ain't a cherry.
this one's kind of it's kind of wacky. I won't lie. It's kind of different. Definitely not the sort of thing I'd be into, but for what it is, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, so I suggest this. I I guess probably I'd be very surprised if anyone watching this podcast or any of the people with me know or have listened to any of the Avalanche's stuff. But they're a ridiculously good electronic plunderphonics hip hop group that is best known for their album Since I Left You, which came out in 2000. And then they dipped for like 16 years and then released an album in 2016. And now they're back with a new album only 4 years after. But yeah, this track, I absolutely love this track, just how it goes from like this very sort of psychedelic, like trip hoppy kind of vocal sample heavy bit to then like Jamie XX's production kicks in and it turns into this very acidy house type track. Yeah, I don't know. I'm very enthusiastic about this because the Avalanches and Jamie XX is like my dream collab. So it's like it's out and it's amazing and like it's just it. I think the biggest thing for me is that it does like it's very minimal, but it does a lot with what it does.
Definitely. I didn't hear of the Avalanches ever before in my life, but I'm definitely going to be hearing more of them because this was a very positive surprise. I'm glad it turned out how it is because I didn't expect what was coming with the track because I thought, okay, this is gonna be like this for the rest of the track, but apparently not because it's very like it changes a lot, but it's still very minimalistic and really solid, like with really good production. Definitely gonna be coming back to that one for a while.
Yeah.
And then moving on to our throwbacks, we've got from Monday's Concrete Jungle by Rootkit, which is already turning 5 years old somehow. And I remember when this was a quite hated release because of the vocals, but I don't think people are so negative towards it nowadays. But it's honestly, I quite enjoy this track. It's not the most memorable Rootkit house, Real Love, that's kind of where it's at for me. But still,
Levitate.
True. But still, it's neat. It's got a fun melody and yeah, overall solid.
I wish P Keys featured more on Rootkit's stuff because a lot of it is very gritty bass house, outsider house stuff, and P Keys' voice really, I guess, mix well together for me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say about this because it's a fairly minimal track, but I just really like the textures in it, and then just like the atmosphere it has.
Yeah, back in my bass house era, like 2018-ish, I used to listen to this track a lot, and I appreciate it for what it is now. I don't like it nearly as much, but it's a cool track. I can listen to it a lot, still like it. It's nice. The off drops could be better, but the drops in general are pretty nice. Like a lot of house nowadays, I'd say, tries to mix too much stuff, and it kind of doesn't really mix well. Let go, Tony Romero, but
I won't let.
yeah, dancing naked silver woman.
So the other one, released on the same day, turning 8 years old already somehow, is Rocktronic by Pegboard Nerds. And while this one, like all of the other 8-year-old tracks, sounds really dated and, you know, has kind of cripplingly poor production, the ideas in this one are actually quite unique. Not only for the era, but for now, like I still can't really hear much else that has kind of like a similar groove to it. So it would be nice to hear something new in that style.
I think what this sort of made me realize the most is that that especially for this, it really made me realize that pegboard nerds haven't really changed up their style a whole lot. Like for the 8 years that they've been a part, or 8 or 9 years that they've been a part of the label, but their like mixing and production has improved like a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Rocktronic VIP when.
Yeah, Rocktronic is nice. I enjoy it. I'm a fan of that track still.
Mm-hmm.
The production is definitely dated, but it was so ahead of its time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Good track.
Moving forward, I don't know if this is a coincidence, but it's pretty neat, is that on the day Breathe Again released is actually the 3rd-year anniversary of What Feels Right, also by Doomu, and with Mindsight. And I remember when this one dropped originally, I really didn't care for it, but now, like, now all these years later, it's actually quite a nice track. Everything's so blissful and it works so well together, and it's not trying to do anything, you know, extraordinary, but it's just trying to be like a really nice experience, you know?
What Feels Right is actually top 30 on the label for me, I think. I don't know, it's such a, like you said, it's such a blissful,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful track. It's such a fun listen. Like the arpeggios in the drop are super nice. They complement the track so well. And the drops are really clean, as well as like the vocals.
Yeah, those are really nice.
Yeah, like everything is so bright, blissful, and it's it's just a happy listen. I don't know, you can never go wrong with that track at all.
Yeah, it's a very nice upbeat future bass. I think what it does the best is that it has these sort of minute changes and additions and removals of instruments that happen throughout the drop and the second drop that keep it, that if those weren't there, then this would be like really boring and forgettable, but that they're there, it makes it a really fun and interesting listen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it somehow never feels like it's the same. Like you could have repeating melodies and all that, but it feels like it's always changing and progressing into something. And I feel like Doomu really smashed it with this one, even though it's not even his best track.
Yeah. Yeah, this follows up his Illuminate EP, which already set the bar super high, but it's really quite a nice track.
This keeps the bar high.
True. Moving forward, this one's quite a fan favorite, to say the least. Turning 1 year old is Just a Gent's debut, Time Voyage, which, I mean, there's not really much to say about it that hasn't already been said. The production is super, super cool, great ideas, and it flows really well, and it's actually just a really unique track on the label.
Yeah. There's like, I think I've mentioned it, or I've probably mentioned it a few times on this podcast, but there are like, for example, like in Drew Loose Collisions, there's like certain details of tracks, like certain melodic bits or like technical pieces that once I notice them, they become super distracting and I hate it. But the one time that it's like worked in its favor is Time Voyage, where in like the after the first and second drop, there's these two patterns of hi-hats that alternate between each panel. And the first time I noticed this, I was like, I like was thinking like, holy shit, this is so cool. Like, it's just like, it's a song that I can listen to like over and over again and keep finding some like new details about it that I've never heard before.
In Just a Gent was, and is probably still one of Monster Cat's best debuts. Time Voyage is phenomenal. Wasn't, I think still is, last year's my favorite release on the label.
Same.
a close second is Urka. And they could switch on the mood. But Time Voyage is such a great track. I mean, the production is mind blowing. It's so creative. We don't really have anything else like it. The progression is phenomenal. Like the fast drop, like when the BPM kind of switches, the tempo kind of switches. That one really caught me off guard first listen. And yeah, I don't know. In general, it's super nice. The aesthetic and the ambience it pulls through the track is very futuristic, and I think it nails it on the head perfectly.
Yeah.
Through the the glitchy sounds and the almost robotic vocals, maybe even. I don't know. It's just such a cool track. I always had massive respect for it, even if it didn't really completely click with me at the start. It progressively grew and grew on me. Same happened with Open Spaces and Wings. With Just the Jin's music, you have all of these little cool attention to detail stuff, and it's such I don't know, it's fulfilling to listen to the track because you don't really have anything missing.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. And on that same day, turning 8 years old, is the Day One and Muzz collab, which I don't know, that kind of feels weird now to think about that they collab, but the Day One and Muzz collab, Black Magic, which, like many of the other 8-year tracks, suffers from old. Although I do think that this one, if it had good production, it probably could have been really neat because there's potential there, but as it is right now, just, yeah, it really isn't it.
I don't know what happened because I used to think that this was one of the most underrated tracks from 2012, but then just this Wednesday it just suddenly clicked off for me, and now I hate this.
Nice.
Just Day One's vocals really don't mesh well with the instrumental, and then the very chiptune lead in the drop is so distractingly loud compared to everything else that it just pulls me away from the track immediately when it starts.
It's like Monster by Julian Calor, except without the good.
Yeah, that even Monster, in its Monster has the loud lead, and then it goes one bar with loud lead, and then one bar with the lead plus a ton of instrumentation and bass, and it's very much like a call response. This is just kind of a call, and then it repeats.
Yeah,
and then it does it again. And it's just the only really interesting thing for me is that it's Muzz drum step, which is very rare.
Muzz's first tracks on the label, I'd argue, are among some of his worst.
Definitely.
Because the production is not great. The ideas are okay at best. But I'm glad to see, especially after what we said for Starglide, I'm glad to see Muzz has progressed to be one of the titans of the label. Because, and I know I said this on another server, but usually what lacks for Muzz, in my opinion, is ideas in general. Sometimes some ideas of Muzz's tracks can fall flat. I don't know, Cascade, for example. That one's a very underwhelming one, even if Muzz's production is always, in my opinion, Muzz's production is always really good, solid. It always works. But I'm glad to see how his mediocre production has progressed to be among some of the best drum and bass tunes on the label.
And then finally, these last two from Friday, we've got turning 3 years old already is the Reach and Slippy collab, That Sound, which, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I really don't like it at all. It's yeah, the lead is annoying, and there's really just not much there for me to enjoy. It's definitely one of my least favorite on that compilation, at least.
Yeah, this might be the one singular Jungle Terror track that I like, mainly just because even Borneo by Wolfgang Gardner and Aircore does this, but that sound does, like, it switches up the lead, which is so important because the lead, at least in my opinion, the three different leads never get grading because you only really hear them once. And it's just the variety, in my opinion, just makes it that much better.
Yeah, for me, this is like the middle. I don't care for it at all. I think the lead is a bit annoying, but it, like you mentioned, it does switch it up enough to keep me interested throughout the entirety of the track. But I don't come back to it because I don't enjoy the leads.
Yeah.
I think they're a bit annoying, and I don't know. I don't know. Concert banger, I guess.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
I think we don't really talk about artwork that much on this podcast, but I think the artwork specifically for this song is one of my favorites on the label.
Give me a second to pull it up.
Slippe's artworks are actually sick, though.
Yeah.
Most of them are phenomenal. Like Form, oh, that one's so good. Form and like Metaphysical. Even if I despise Metaphysical as a track,
yeah, that has a cool artwork. Flux
Yeah.
has a really neat artwork as well, and Show Me too.
Don't You Say You Love Me. The Flux is blue. No, wait. Don't You Say You Love Me is red Flux.
Yes.
Wait, let me take a look at it. You're absolutely right. It's red Flux, but a circle, and yeah.
Yeah, no person. The person is gone.
He left.
He ran through the circle.
That's true. Actually, continuing the topic of the animations, because I'm checking some out right now. Some of them have been really cool lately, like the Lost My Mind, even though the thumbnail is going to be a meme about that. The animation for the thing is actually... it's not the best animation, but it's cool.
I haven't seen any of them. I don't watch the videos. I just listen to them on the website, so I have no clue.
Same.
I sometimes listen to them on YouTube. Cause I don't know, gaming playlists I share with my friends, but cause some of them don't really use Spotify, cause they say they have the same philosophy as you, mostrino, that they think Spotify bad.
Spotify bad. Enough said.
Yeah.
That is true, but I still use it.
I feel like that's like half the people, like everyone who has heard of like another streaming service. It's like, yeah, Spotify's bad, but I'm still gonna use it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you have.
I mean, I won't lie. Like the Discord integration and everything is like a neat thing that, of course, they haven't really done for any of the other ones. So, of course, there's perks to being a Spotify user.
Yeah.
I don't know. I tend to use Spotify because a lot of my friends use Spotify, like in my class.
Gotcha.
So it's more accessible to me. But some of my friends with who I play video games with don't really use Spotify. And it's funny to think that I'm actually quite surprised that a lot of my friends listen to EDM music. Like, Dark Bones, like the ranker that was left for university and the old Fish Ranks group.
Yeah.
He's actually my neighbor.
Dang.
Yeah. And one of his favorite songs over the year is Galaxies by Protostar. Which is cool. And yeah, I sent him Starglide and he's like that quite a bit too. So yeah, that's pretty neat.
And then the final throwback track on the list is Glow by Richard Caddick, which Richard Caddick production before Keepsake. That's kind of a bit of a throwback, but it's a future bass song. It doesn't really do anything too special. It's just kind of there for me.
Yeah. I think other than like the sort of the plucky sound that's in the drop, it's just it's very basic and forgettable. I think If there was a bit more in it, I would like it, but otherwise, this is really forgettable.
Yeah, I enjoy it because for some reason I'm a huge fan of Richard Kellog's vocals, even though that's probably a controversial opinion. But yeah, for example, like Distance is one of my favorite tracks on the label, actually. So
I actually really enjoy Distance as well. I know a lot of people hate it, but I wouldn't say one of my favorites on the label, but I quite like it, honestly.
it's super nice. Like it's definitely Hyper Potion's best track, and I'd argue Richard Kellog's best performance on the label. But yeah, the track itself is kind of basic, but for some reason, basic future bass, like in that style specifically, clicks with me. I was gonna say basic future bass clicks with me, but I remember we have Sabai on the label, and
But
that's
Yeah.
very not good.
yeah, this is like Glow is like good basic future bass.
Yeah,
So then,
Like,
what are you
it's
kind of
guys'
forgettable.
thoughts on Close by Conroe? Because I know that's one that always gets, you know, that we always talk about. If we have to mention basic future bass, we have to bring up Conroe Close.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't care much for it. I enjoy it, but I think some people overrate it far too much, in my opinion.
Yeah, like I think it's about a 6 out of 10, but I could not point you to like a single like definable feature of that song. Like it's extremely run of the mill. It's enjoyable, but there's like nothing to talk about that song. Like there's nothing there.
Yeah, there's so many Conroe tracks I would much rather listening to. Like from that EP, I'd say Lay Low specifically.
Love Divine, Weary.
True.
That was the first time DeZero was on here.
And it was, I mean, I would also mention Sit Like a Flamingo, but yeah, that's like really wacky for the other, like, Zero's solo style is way different from those. So the collabs are always like, you can barely hear DeZero in it.
Mm-hmm.
Might be controversial, but I'm actually a really big fan of the Zero singles. Like that didn't click with me at all. Still hasn't, but
About Us
About
is
Us
nice, yeah.
About Us is very nice, and for some reason I really like Thinking About You. Which is again
Dang.
kind of standard future bass, so
Yeah,
that's
Thinking
kind of
About
my
You
thing.
was very, very meh for me. But About Us I do kind of enjoy, and then Like That just feels like About Us, but not as interesting to me.
Yeah, that's
About
pretty
that,
much just
but with
my
a
thoughts on that.
wackier lead and not the like the melody with the vocals that's super nice on About Us.
Yeah.
And even though I thought those were pretty basic pop radio tracks, Lost My Mind has made me rethink that. It just sounds so similar to some of the stuff that, I don't know, it's kind of wacky to see. And from Inverness, no less, I was expecting some kind of trap drop halfway through, but it was not to be.
Yeah.
Inverness has been a bit underwhelming. I was saying like a few days ago that no, yesterday that Inverness has been mediocre and underwhelming, but now that this has clicked on me, it's better. I'm still not a fan of Toxic because it's unique, but it hasn't clicked with me at all still. And I don't know. I'm interested to see because Inverness as a whole has not released a ton of tracks. Like
Mhm.
from as far as I know, I'm a huge fan of his Willem Bolton collab Breathe. That one's really good. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
No.
Well, you should.
Okay.
I remember
Okay.
I remember recommending that to Soar, and he didn't add it to the playlist. So
That
rip.
was sad.
But
Yeah,
Epic.
when I rewatch this, I'll take a listen.
I think specifically for Monster Cat, Inverness is a lot like Didrik, where both of them had like these amazing collabs. Inverness with Tumbling Down in Hours, and then Didrik with the War remix with Fool, and then like they just kind of vanished for like a year, and then they come back, and everybody's so hyped, and then it releases and it's really generic and everyone forgets about it.
Yeah.
Although Didrik's like even more extreme. He was gone for like forever, aside from like the mashups, and then he came back with Owl City Adam Young, no less. Like
Yeah, that was wild.
That was certainly a way to kick off Instinct.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't Didrik couldn't really release anything because his old label was basically holding him hostage.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it's a bro moment.
That is a bro moment. But yeah, in general, I'm interested to see where Inverness goes. Apparently, he's gonna be releasing an EP.
Ooh.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I saw the comments on the post about the track, and even so, the artworks are kind of similar. Like they're all in a museum type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested to see where this goes, because
Lost My Mind and Toxic are not really that similar.
Yeah, because I'm thinking Inverness is quite flexible right now, because you have this, Tumbling Down, and Skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just waiting for his third one to be on Uncaged, and it's gonna be like Neurofunk or something. It's gonna be wacky.
That'd be sick.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, the full track.
I'm not excited for Fool's EP at all. I heard the previews and I didn't like a single one.
The last full track that I've quite enjoyed has been Carry On, which was over a year ago now. And everything else, like the synthwave and trap, has just been... It's just not appealing for me. I mean, if you like that style, then I guess you'll probably like all of it. But I mean, even I like still some synthwave that has... more of a character to it. Shadow Task EP was solid. Essinger's album had a lot of solid stuff in it. But Fools has been quite bland.
Yeah.
No.
The only track that I've loved since he came back was Neon, and that's a really unpopular take to like.
Yeah, but even that one's more interesting than at least a lot of his last EP.
Yeah,
his last EP was... I mean, I like synthwave as a genre. I think it's cool, but I don't know. It's just very forgettable. Especially like the trap one. That one's no.
The trap ones are so bro.
Mm-hmm.
So boring. Like it's not bad, but it's very unoriginal, bland, and boring. So I'm not hyped at all.
Yeah, they're just tracks that... I mean, at least they don't get thrown on the comps, but they're really just tracks that exist, and it's just nothing there.
Yeah, we don't really need that many EPs, fool. Like, come on.
Is this like his fourth, or?
Including the Highway EP, which had released off-label, I think it was on Tasty, before, this would be his fourth EP since he came back.
Yeah, and then he had Night, which was before that too, like before he left. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember Highway EP that well, but I remember that I actually did enjoy Highway the track. So Fool can do good and interesting synthwave, but the stuff on Monster Cat just hasn't been it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember that my favorite Fool track is on Highway. Let me look it up.
I think my favorite Fool is still like Showdown.
My favorite Fool is Need You, but I think Showdown's probably my second favorite. It's such a good track.
What's actually really there's the track Distorted Reality on the Night EP. In my opinion, is like it's like the new Fool synthwave, but done so goddamn well.
I have to re-listen to that because I've heard it like twice.
I think in my opinion, it might be the most underrated track on the label. Like straight up.
Need You might be my favorite Fool on label, but off label Escape Plan is my favorite one. For some reason,
I have to re-listen to that EP.
I really like Escape Plan. Like my neighbor listens to it a whole lot. He showed me the track actually because I hadn't listened to Fool off label that much because I wasn't really that interested. But Escape Plan is really great. I love it a whole lot.
But yeah, I think you can tell from not only mine but a lot of people's prediction rankings that Fool unfortunately is not an artist that when we see that they're releasing soon. It's definitely not one that we're over the moon about, but who knows? I haven't heard the preview. Maybe it's interesting, probably not, but I guess we'll just have to see.
It's a bit different. I'm gonna say this. It kind of switches things up,
All right.
but
It's a lot more. It's a lot more mid-tempo-y. Like, I guess, like res like or like it's very mid-tempo bassy.
kind of like busted out, but not ass grating.
Like Revenger?
More bass, more industrial.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd say like numb tier maybe.
Yeah.
So how should we wrap this up? Continue to wait for KingDolphin to finish his top 50.
God damn.